You're listening to NightLore, where the shadows speak, and the stories are never just stories. Tonight's tale comes from a man who's spent more than 2 decades behind the badge. He's not a writer, he's not a storyteller, but what he shared was written in the kind of detail you only remember when you've lived through hell. This isn't a ghost story. It's a report one that was never supposed to leave the sheriff's archives. If you've ever driven through rural backroads at night, you know the feeling, that quiet stretch where your headlights are the only thing keeping the dark from swallowing you whole. So turn off the lights, turn up the volume, and remember, sometimes the things we bury in the dark don't stay buried for long. This is the Winding Pines incident. I've worn the badge for 22 years, and in all that time, only one night has followed me home. The report was filed, the photos archived, the bodies, well, one body documented. But the story itself, that was quietly buried. I'm not here to clear my conscience. I just need someone to know what really happened near Camp Winding Pines. Because lately, I've been hearing things out there again. Howls that don't sound like coyotes. Footprints that appear after rain, but never lead away. The official version says it was an animal attack during a vehicle pursuit. That's what the sheriff's office told the press. But the truth began with something ordinary. Just another traffic stop on a moonlit back road. It was close to midnight on County Road 8. A full moon hung over the fields, so bright it turned the asphalt silver. The air smelled like damp pine and gasoline. I was half asleep in the cruiser when a silver Toyota shot past me. Must have been doing double the limit. I sighed, flicked on the lights, and pulled out. Routine. Everything that night was supposed to be routine. They stopped almost too fast, tires biting the gravel shoulder brake, lights glowing dull red. The car looked tired, early 2000s, model primer on the fender exhaust rattling. 2 men inside. The driver's hands clamped the wheel so tight, his knuckles gleamed. The passenger stared straight ahead, not blinking. I approached on the left. License and registration. The driver flinched like I'd struck him. Papers spilled out of the glove box. He froze, then gathered them in shaking hands. When he spoke, his voice cracked. "Please, officer, just write us a ticket. Anything. We really need to go." That caught me off guard. People begged not to get tickets. No one begged for one. "Have you been drinking?" I asked. They exchanged a look, silent fast, almost like a conversation without words. Then both shook their heads. "No, sir. I ran the license. Clean record. Car registered to the driver. No warrants, no flags. Nothing." When I came back, something had changed. Sweat soaked through the driver's collar. His head twitched toward his shoulder every few seconds. The passenger had started muttering under his breath, a rasp I couldn't make out. "Sir," I said, "turn off the engine." He hesitated, then obeyed. The car fell quiet. Even the forest seemed to hold its breath. I told him we'd need a sobriety test. That's when he looked at me, eyes wide, pupils huge like an animal trapped in headlights. "You don't understand," he whispered. "We're out of time." Before I could ask what he meant, his foot slammed the pedal. Gravel sprayed my boots as the Toyota fish-tailed back onto the road. For half a heartbeat, I just stared, hearing my own pulse louder than the siren that followed. "Unit 18 pursuing a fleeing vehicle," I said into the mic. "Silver Toyota, eastbound, on 8. 2 occupants. The tires spat stones. The moon followed us like a searchlight. Their car swerved wildly, crossing lanes, overcorrecting, skidding. I thought they'd roll at any second. Then I saw the wooden sign ahead, flashing in my headlights, Camp Winding Pines Youth Retreat. The road turned from gravel to dirt. Tall trees pressed close on both sides, swallowing the sound. When their rear lights vanished around a bend, I thought they'd made it. Then came the crunch. Branches snapped, a hollow metallic thud. I braked hard. Steam hissed from the Toyota's hood. The nose had buried itself against a pine trunk. No smoke, no fire, just the ticking of cooling metal. "Put your hands where I can see them," I shouted. No response. I moved closer, flashlight up, hand near the holster. The driver slumped against the airbag, alive, bleeding from his eyebrow. The passenger didn't move. His neck was bent at an angle that no living man could manage. I swallowed bile and reached for the radio. "Dispatch. I've got a collision. 1 fatality, 1 injured." That's when the driver gasped awake. He fumbled with the seatbelt, fell out of the car, and hit the dirt on all fours. "Stay still," I barked. He didn't even look at me. He rolled onto his back eyes, locked on the sky, whispering words I couldn't understand. Then suddenly, he scrambled to his feet and bolted into the woods. I ran after him. Low branches tore at my sleeves. The beam of my flashlight jumped across bark and shadow. I caught up near a slope where the trees thickened. He'd collapsed again, one hand pressed to the ground, the other clawing at his chest, as if trying to dig something out. "Are you on something?" I demanded. "Heroin, meth." He didn't answer. His breathing rattled fast and shallow. Sweat poured down his face, pooling at his collar. Then he whispered so quietly I almost missed it. "If you hide now, maybe it won't know you're near." At first I thought he was overdosing. I'd seen enough of those bodies, jerking voices, mumbling nonsense. I reached for the Narcan kit in my cruiser. I dragged him back towards the road, half carrying him. He barely walked legs, shaking eyes, rolling white. "Stay with me," I said, shoving him into the back seat. "Help's coming." He twitched once hard enough to rattle the cage partition. Then another spasm, deeper, violent. I radioed impossible overdose suspect incoherent, requesting EMS priority. A low, wet sound came from behind me. Not words, just a guttural clicking, like something caught between breathing and retching. "Hang on," I shouted, yanking open the glove box for the nasal spray. The sound grew louder. I turned flashlight, raised, and froze. He was shaking every muscle, drawn tight veins, pulsing under his skin. Lines split open along his forearms, tearing wider with each convulsion. For a heartbeat, I thought the skin was peeling. Then I saw fur, thick, dark strands pushing through the seams like grass, through cracked pavement. His shirt tore across the chest. Bones cracked, sharp, deliberate, as though rearranging themselves. The jaw dislocated, then stretched teeth, snapping loose and falling one by one onto the seat. New fangs pushed through bloody gums. The sound wasn't human anymore. It was deeper layered, vibrating in my chest. He looked at me through the cage. His eyes had turned amber pupils, thin and vertical. "Jesus Christ," I whispered. The cruiser exploded with motion. He lunged forward, the metal barrier bending under his weight. Glass shattered. The rear door ripped free of its hinge. I stumbled back, drew my sidearm, and fired 3 rounds. Dark bursts blossomed across the fur, but he didn't fall. He didn't even flinch. He turned his head toward the woods, toward the camp, and sniffed the air. Then he ran, on all fours, faster than I'd ever seen anything move. Within seconds, he was gone, swallowed by the trees and the moonlight. I stood there, gun trembling, staring at the wreck of my cruiser. The radio crackled at my shoulder, a voice asking if I needed medical. My mouth was too dry to answer. Somewhere out there, the thing that used to be a man was heading straight for Camp Winding Pines. And there were children sleeping in those cabins. I don't remember deciding to go after it. One second I was standing there, the next, I was digging through the trunk for the shotgun. Some part of me, the part that still believed in logic, kept saying wait for backup. But that other part, the one that had heard that man whisper, "We're out of time," knew waiting wasn't an option. I loaded a shell, chambered it, and started toward the camp. The forest was too quiet. Not the kind of quiet where things sleep, the kind that follows violence. Every branch, every rustle underfoot sounded like it was being swallowed by the dark. I followed the dirt track, the same one the Toyota had torn through. Pine needles carpeted the ground, soft enough to mute my steps. After a while, a faint orange light appeared ahead, the security cabin, near the entrance of Winding Pines. I knocked hard. A man jolted awake inside, nearly spilling his coffee. I flashed my badge before he could panic. "Officer Donnelly, something's loose out there. I need you with me. Are you armed?" He blinked, still foggy from sleep. "Armed? Oh yeah, in the drawer." He reached inside, pulled out a pistol that looked like it hadn't been fired in years. "Good," I said. "You're coming with me." "What the hell's going on?" he asked, stepping outside. "There's something in these woods. We need to make sure the kids are safe. Move." He hesitated, studying me, like he was trying to decide whether I was insane. But he followed. We moved down the path toward the heart of the camp. Cabins appeared one by one through the trees' wooden silhouettes with weak porch lights. Somewhere, an owl called. It sounded almost human. "How's the camp laid out?" I asked. 6 cabins total," he said quietly. 3 on each side of the main trail. Staff quarters past the mess hall. Generators behind that. No fence, never needed one. We reached the first cabin. I pressed a finger to my lips. Inside, only the soft rhythm of breathing. "Wake the adult first," I whispered. "Tell her to get the kids dressed and lead them to the bus. Don't explain, just move." The counselor's eyes went wide when she saw the badges, but she didn't ask questions. In less than a minute, 7 sleepy children were tiptoeing into the night, guided by their teacher's shaking hand. I waited until the last of them vanished into the dark before moving to the next cabin. The second and third went smoothly. More staff, more kids, all herded toward the bus at the end of the lane. But the fourth cabin was different. Claw marks raked across the lower half of the door, deep gouges that had splintered the wood. The guard's breath hitched. I raised the shotgun, nodded, and we took positions. When I opened the door, the air felt heavier. Pressure changed like walking into a storm. My flashlight swept the bunks, rows of sleeping children faces, soft and unaware. Something tripped. I tilted the light upward. There, clinging to the rafters, was it. Its arms were stretched wide claws, sunk deep into the beams. Its chest rose and fell with wet, jerking breaths. Patches of fur matted over slick, exposed muscle. Its mouth hung open strings of saliva, stretching between rows of teeth. It wasn't looking at me. It was staring at the smallest bed in the room, a girl with one arm dangling off the side. I raised the shotgun and fired. The blast lit the cabin in one blinding flash. The slug tore through its shoulder. It didn't fall, it screamed. A noise so deep, it rattled my teeth. Kids bolted upright, crying. I pumped the shotgun and fired again. This time, it moved. It tore itself free of the ceiling in one violent motion. Wood exploded outward. I fired again, but it was too fast. One arm hit the barrel, snapping the gun clean in half. The guard shouted. The thing rammed into him, throwing him against the far wall. Then it burst through the door in a blur of limbs and fur. I staggered after it, adrenaline burning through my veins. "Get the kids to the bus," I yelled. Now he was still alive, dazed, nodding through the pain. We dragged the rest of the kids from their beds. No explanations, no time. Just screaming, sobbing, and running. From deeper in the woods came more screams, adult voices this time. It had found someone else. I had to choose. Stay and protect the ones I could see, or chase what was killing the rest. I stayed. I herded them toward the bus. It was the only thing I could still control. The children piled inside, huddling in the aisles, their faces streaked with dirt and tears. The guard slid into the driver's seat, knuckles white on the wheel. I stood near the back, pistol drawn. "Go," I said. "Don't stop for anything." The engine coughed, then caught. We lurched forward down the dirt road. The headlights carved tunnels through the fog. For a while, there was only the hum of the tires. A little girl whispered, "Is it gone?" I didn't answer. Outside, something moved. At first, I thought it was trees blurring past. Then I saw it keeping pace, running alongside the bus, half in shadow. One arm hung limp, the other clawed through brush, pulling it forward with impossible strength. Its face turned toward us, eyes glowing amber through the glass. "Faster," I yelled. The guard pressed harder on the pedal. The bus rattled, engine straining. The dirt road dropped into a wooden bridge, spanning a gorge. The creature veered off the trail, vanished behind the trees. For a few seconds, I thought we'd lost it. Then it landed on the roof. The whole frame shook. Metal screamed. Children shrieked. "It's on the roof." "Is something on the roof?" the guard shouted. "Keep driving," I barked. "If we swerve, we go over." The ceiling dented inward. With each step, it took closer to the front. Then a massive claw tore straight through the roof, above the driver's seat. The strike came fast. The guard didn't even scream. One clean motion, and his head fell forward against the wheel. The bus swerved hard. The left wheels caught the edge of the bridge. For a moment, we balanced there, suspended between gravity and luck. Then the world flipped. The crash was endless metal, grinding glass, shattering bodies, slamming into walls. When it stopped, everything was sideways. Smoke filled the air. Children whimpered somewhere in the dark. Through the cracked windshield, I saw movement. The creature hung half outside its arm, twisted through the roof lattice. Its weight pulled the bus toward the edge of the gorge. The other arm shredded from shoulder to wrist, flailed uselessly. Every time it thrashed, the bus tilted further. I crawled toward the front head, pounding pistol gone. The fire axe from the emergency case gleamed above the shattered windshield. Old, rusted, but solid. I broke the glass with my elbow, grabbed the handle, and pulled. I didn't think. I just swung. The blade bit deep into the flesh above its wrist. It screamed a sound that didn't belong in this world. Hot blood sprayed across my face. I hit again, and again. The third strike severed the tendon. The arm stayed wedged in the steel, but the body fell free. It dropped into the darkness below, its roar echoing until it was swallowed by the river. The bus groaned. I turned, grabbing the nearest child, helping them climb through the emergency door. One by one, we crawled out into the cold night. The ground trembled beneath us. When the last kid was clear, the bus gave one final creak and slid off the edge. The crash below sounded like thunder rolling through stone. We stood there 40 feet above the river, watching smoke rise through the trees. No one spoke. There was nothing left to say. Red and blue lights flashed through the pines an hour later. Backup had finally arrived. I remember sitting on the pavement, the axe still in my hand, blood drying on my sleeve. Someone wrapped a blanket around me. A paramedic cleaned the cut on my arm, but I couldn't feel it. Another officer knelt beside me, Jameson. He looked at the wreckage, then at me. Jesus, Donnelly. What the hell happened? I couldn't answer. Not yet. Not until the last of the children were loaded into ambulances, their faces pale and blank. Eventually, someone asked about the original crash. The Toyota, a medic said. You reported one fatality, right? Where's the body? I blinked. For the first time since the chase began, I remembered the passenger, the one with his neck bent wrong. We drove back to the site together. The car still sat there, nose buried in the tree. But the rear window was broken from the inside. Glass littered the ground. One of the medics shone his flashlight into the back seat. He turned to me frowning. There's blood, but no body. I stepped closer. The seat was soaked, dark stains stretching across the fabric. The seatbelt was stiff with dried red, but there was nothing else. No bones, no clothes, not even a trace of drag marks leading away. Jameson spoke softly. Was he dead when you saw him? Yeah, I said. He was dead. Could he have moved? I shook my head. No. The forest whispered around us, leaves brushing branches shifting. A low wind rolled through the pines, carrying the scent of earth and iron. And then faint but distinct somewhere, far off in the dark. A howl, long, low, answering itself. Jameson looked at me. You hear that? I didn't respond. Because I was already looking past the tree line, where the moonlight caught something large, moving between the trunks, slow, deliberate, almost graceful. We stood there until it vanished into the black. That's where my report ends. That's where the official story stops. But every full moon since I've driven back out here, parked by the shoulder, and waited. Sometimes, I swear I see yellow eyes glinting between the trees. Sometimes, I hear that same low clicking in the distance, the sound that came right before he changed. And sometimes, I wonder if the thing that fell into that gorge died at all. Because the next town over are ranchers, been reporting livestock torn apart. And a camper swears he saw a tall, hairy man standing in the river. Maybe it's just stories. Maybe I'm losing my mind. But if you ever drive down County Road 8 and you see the sign for Winding Pines Youth Retreat, don't stop. Keep driving. And whatever you do, don't look into the woods. If you're still here, thank you for listening. Stories like this come and go through small towns. The kind people whisper about for years, until everyone convinces themselves it was just a rumor, just another campfire tale. But reports still surface. Tracks still appear after the rain. And on some nights under the full moon, someone swears they can still hear the echoes of that final scream from the gorge. If you ever find yourself on County Road 8, don't stop. Keep your doors locked and pray that the thing in the trees isn't watching you. This has been NightLore. If you enjoyed tonight's story, leave a like, subscribe, and share it with someone who thinks monsters don't exist. I'll see you again in the dark.